Welcome back, students. Today we're going to be doing a tree. It's a cherry blossom tree, and we're going to be using Q-tips, a bunch of Q-tips here. So we're going to get started. I'm going to tell you what materials we're going to be using. We're going to use a canvas, and the paints we're going to be using is red, white, black. We're going to be using Q-tips bundled together with a little rubber band. And we're also going to be using two brushes. We're going to use a flatter brush and then a rounder brush for the tree. So let's get started. I'm going to put some white paint. I'm going to use this little palette, white paint on your palette, and some black paint, and a little bit of red, and some white. So we're going to use those. Okay, you're going to take your big flat brush and you're going to dip it in. You can have your water. You can dip a little bit in your water and then dab it on your cloth, and then dip it in your white paint. And we're just going to cover the whole thing. You can use a generous amount of white paint, not a problem. You're going to go back over it with a little bit of black and create the gray for the background. Long strokes back and forth. Then you're going to dab, just take a dab. Don't even wash off your brush, just take a dab into the black. Then you're going to go on top, all the way across. I'm going to dab a little bit more white at the top here, make it a little not so black, make it more gray. A little bit more white. And I'm just going to go back and forth, adding a little bit more white, until I get the consistency and the color that I desire in the background. It's a little too gray up here, a little too black, so I'm going to add some more white to it, like a dark, cloudy sky. Okay, that seems to look good for me. I seem to be good with that. So I'm going to let that dry, and then we're going to come back and we're going to paint the tree and the blossoms on top of that. All right, students, so now that it's dry, what we're going to do is you're going to take your chalk and you're going to draw your tree. I'm going to draw it with the chalk, then I'm going to go over it with the pen, because as we found out, you can't see the chalk very well through the screen, through the video. So I'm going to make the branches and make the trunks right through there, and then I'm going to follow it up with the pen. So I'm just going to just get some general ideas. And then I'm going to come back over so you guys can see it and make the tree. Now the chalk, as you remember, is just a general guideline of how you want it to look. A lot of it is going to be covered up with the pink paint, so you don't have to worry too much about it. That might be a little bit too long. Maybe just cut it off right there. But with the chalk, you'll be able to make your adjustments. So then after I made my tree, I'm going to put my black paint on here. I'm going to take this brush that I have. This is the one I'm going to be using. And I'm going to roll it in there. I'm going to paint my tree. Sometimes what you can do is you can take your brush and dip it in to the water just a little bit, roll it in the paint, and then drag it along and kind of curl it, kind of twist it a little bit. and you can make it a little bit of a thinner. I'm gonna have to follow these lines a bit because I made them. It's gonna look kind of silly without it, so I'm gonna follow these lines. But if I pull it up as I'm leaving, as I go farther away from the page, to the top of the page, if I pull up, it can become a thinner branch. And another thing we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit of a black bottom all the way along the bottom. And adding a little bit of a dab of water does help with the black because it makes it go a lot farther. Now, because this is paper, you'll be able to see as I take it off, I only did the very bottom edge. I did overlap it into the thing that it's taped onto. You just have to just do a small little area of that. Just wanted you to know that. And then make a whole bunch of other little tiny branches, and you can use just the very tip. Make it very light and use this the very tip. Dip it in the water a little bit. If you want to, you can use a much thinner brush too. I have a thinner brush that I can use as well if you want to make some smaller, finer branches. And this also works very well when you dipped it into the water because it makes a nice, very fine line. I'm not worrying too much about how these branches look because they're going to be covered a lot with the paint. A little bit of drips right there. All right, so I'm gonna cover that up with maybe some gray or white paint, maybe not. It's one thing about just using the chalk is you can decide not to paint an area and then you won't be left with permanent markers on that. I'm gonna leave that for right now and we'll just see where it goes. I'm gonna let this tree dry and then we're gonna come back and we're going to use the Q-tips on the red and white paint and make pink and finish that up. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. All right, we're back now and the tree is dry. So now I'm going to take my red paint and my white paint and I'm going to use this and I'm going to make my little dots. So I'm gonna I've already used this one time before. I'm gonna be using it again, see how that turns out. If it doesn't turn out how I want it to, I will flip it over and use the other side. So I'm dipping it in the red. I'm gonna dip it in the white. Make like a little bit of a pink. Dab it separately so they don't have all blotches. And I'm gonna apply it, just go all over the place on my canvas here. And reusing this isn't turning out exactly how I thought it would, so I'm probably going to change and turn over and flip it on the other side, but I'm going to give it a few more goes on this. Yeah, that's not working for me very well. So I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to take the rubber band and move it to the other side. No, this is just to get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 15 Q-tips here. So I got my 15 Q-tips or so, and I'm just gonna start again. Doing the white, a little bit of red, make it like a pink, and here we go. I'm just gonna go that all over that, and I can get some of it darker pink, some of it lighter pink. Make sure after you dab it in the one color and then dab it in your paint, you dab it separately so it's not so concentrated and make just big blobs like that. And if you make a mistake, it's okay, because we'll just let it dry and then you can go on top of it with more petals. So don't worry too much if you think it's too blobby or it's not working out how you want it to. Let it dry, and then we'll go on top of it and do some more. I'm staying away from the base of this trunk, just up in the branches. And if you want to let that dry and then go back on top of it and do another round, please feel free. Sometimes it looks a lot better when you have a bunch more layers on it. Then you can take some with just like white, do some just white, and then do some maybe dark pink and some light pink. Do all sorts of different kinds, because there's going to be all sorts of different colors and kinds on this. And you just keep doing that until you have reached the number and the amount and have it look the way you want to look. And as my teachers always said, when it's 80% how you want it to look, then step back and leave it at that. So that's all for right now. Hi students, so I want to go back again on one thing on this, and you see how like it's a really wide here. I don't particularly like that so much, so I'm going to actually go over with some white. I'm going to see if I can take that down and make it not so obvious. And the white that you're going to want to use with this is called a titanium white. And I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to do this. So give me 1 second. All right, so this is titanium white. You can get it at almost any craft store. Titanium white is important because it actually acts as a whiting, well, completely whiting out, and it will cover up and help you fix any mistakes that you may make. This other white that I use, it's a white paint. It's just not a titanium white. It doesn't fully cover. It will allow things to come through more easily. So, and I can show you as an example here. It's pretty darn good. I actually use it a lot for my cover-ups, but it's not as good as the acrylic. I mean, as the titanium white. So this is the regular white paint that I was using, this one right here. Put a little, dab a little white on this, and I'm gonna cover that up. And it looks pretty good, but you can see the black coming through there, on there. So I'm going to add a little bit of the titanium white. And I should let that dry, but I'm just going to go right on top of that. Now with that, I'm actually going to have to now go back and fix up the rest of it. So it's not necessarily, you can do it, it's just now I've made myself a whole lot of extra work. Let's see if I can fix some of this. Don't really like using this brush. So I'm going to switch back to my other brush that I was using before. See if I can do this. Yeah, I'm just making a bit of a mess of this. So I'm going to cover this all up, cover that part all up. I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to try to go back and fix it with other things. So I just wanted to show you what happened. So I went back and did the white, and then I put some more gray on top of it. I tried to make it look pretty decent. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but you can see I fixed this error over here, and then I cleaned that up a little bit around that. It kind of shows like a little aura. That looked pretty neat. So I just wanted to share that with you. And that's all for this one.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, Oh Dancing for My Love, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe